A one-night fling. 2 pink lines. Zero idea what comes next. When meticulous marketing manager Cindy wakes up next to charming, commitment-averse photographer Theodore, she writes it off as a mistake born of champagne and slow dancing. But weeks later, a pregnancy test shatters her assumptions and forces them both to confront a future they never planned. As they stumble through appointments, arguments, and unexpected intimacy, Cindy and Theodore must decide if this accidental connection could become something real. Not just for their baby, but for themselves. Hello family, welcome to Storytime with Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Sunlight leaked through the gauzy curtains, slipping across the tangle of sheets like a soft apology for the previous night. The hotel room smelled faintly of roses, spilled champagne, and something warm and human. The silence was heavy, not awkward yet, but expectant, like the pause before a curtain rises. Cindy blinked awake, her mind swimming somewhere between sleep and recognition. She lay on her side, staring at the edge of the bedspread, tracing the pattern with unfocused eyes until the slow breath behind her reminded her she wasn't alone. She turned carefully. There he was. Theodore's chest rose and fell in a slow rhythm, his dark curls mussed and his lips parted slightly in sleep. A faint scar ran along his collarbone, and she followed it with her eyes like it was a map to something she shouldn't be searching for. Last night came back to her in flashes. The clink of glasses at the reception, dancing too close to a slow song neither of them liked, his hand at the small of her back as they slipped out of the ballroom, both drunk on laughter and proximity. Cindy sat up quietly, pulling the sheet with her. Her dress was draped over a chair in the corner, one heel tipped on its side like it had fainted from the heat of the moment. She rubbed her forehead and sighed, careful not to disturb him. What the hell was that? They weren't strangers. Friends of friends, mostly. A few shared laughs over drinks in the past. Occasional comments on each other's Instagram stories. She always thought he was trouble in that charming, camera-slinging, just passing through kind of way. She was the spreadsheet-loving, list-making kind of woman who did not have one-night flings at weddings. Until now. Theodore stirred, eyelids fluttering. Cindy froze. His eyes opened, ocean gray with a trace of sleep. And for a second, they just looked at each other. Not startled. Not regretful. Just two people blinking at a reality they hadn't expected to wake up to. Hey, he said, voice husky, tentative. Hey, she echoed, reaching for her dress without looking at him. He sat up too, running a hand through his hair. So that happened. Cindy slipped her dress on over her head. It did. A pause. A smile flickered at the corner of his mouth. Not a bad night. No, she admitted, buttoning the back of her dress with one hand. But not exactly on my itinerary. Theodore chuckled lightly, then sobered. Do you want to, talk about it? She shook her head. There's not much to talk about. We were at a wedding. We were tipsy. Things happened. He nodded, though something about his expression softened. A blink of disappointment, quickly hidden. Cindy picked up her purse and keys. It was good. Unexpected, but good. Let's leave it at that, okay? Okay, he said, standing up and reaching for his shirt. She gave him one last look before walking to the door. Not cold, not wistful, just final. Take care, Theodore. You too, Cindy. The door clicked softly behind her, leaving the room half-lit and quiet once more. Neither of them knew it yet, but the real story hadn't even begun. Cindy hated throwing up. It wasn't just the act itself, the burn in her throat, the way it made her eyes water, the helpless clench of her stomach, but the chaos of it. Cindy lived her life in clean lines, controlled outcomes. She meal prepped on Sundays. She color-coded her closet. She never missed a deadline, even if she hated the project. But now, 3 mornings in a row, she was bent over the toilet in her bathroom, gripping the edge of the counter like it might anchor her to something solid. She spat, flushed, and stood slowly, catching her reflection in the mirror. Her skin looked pale beneath the harsh bathroom lights, lips drawn tight, eyes shadowed with worry. She placed a hand on her stomach, almost without thinking. No, it can't be that. She counted backward, mentally retracing her steps. It had been 6 weeks since the wedding. 6 weeks since she and Theodore, no. That night was over. She hadn't seen him since. Hadn't even texted. They'd silently agreed, like people do in quiet exits, that what happened wasn't meant to stretch beyond dawn. She grabbed her phone and opened the calendar app. Red dots and scheduled meetings lined the coming weeks, but there it was, the glaring gap in her period tracker. She sat down on the edge of the tub and stared at nothing. "No," she whispered to the air. "It's probably stress." But the words rang hollow. Her body didn't feel stressed. It felt different. Off. Like her own system was recalibrating without her permission. The pharmacy was quiet that evening, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Cindy picked up the test like it was a grenade and checked out with barely a nod to the cashier. She could feel the plastic bag crinkling in her hand all the way home. 15 minutes later, she was pacing her apartment in gym shorts and an old college hoodie, the test lying on the bathroom counter like a verdict waiting to be read. She refused to look at it until her timer buzzed. 3 minutes. She sat on the arm of her couch. 2. She wiped her palms on her thighs. 1. The beep startled her. She stood, walked slowly to the bathroom, and stared down. 2 pink lines. It was like the floor under her gave a little lurch. Not a collapse. Not yet, but the kind of shift that says, "You can't go back from this." Cindy sank to the floor. Her knees hit the cold tile. The silence was deafening. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, holding the test in both hands like it might explain itself. Her thoughts weren't linear. They spiraled, logistics, timelines, names, decisions, questions. And somewhere buried in the noise, a single, sharp certainty, Theodore. She hadn't thought about him much since that night, at least not consciously. But now his name filled the room like a storm front. Cindy leaned her head back against the cabinet and let out a shaky breath. "Well," she said aloud to no one, "I guess we're going to talk after all." Cindy stood outside the cafe, fingers clenched around a lukewarm cup of chai she'd bought just to have something in her hands. The air smelled like espresso and roasted cinnamon, and the buzz of conversation inside barely reached her where she lingered under the green awning. Theodore was late. Not by much, 5 minutes, maybe 7. But she'd arrived 15 early, which made her feel both ridiculous and exposed, like she was giving this moment more weight than she should. She glanced down at her phone again. His last message was from the night before. "Sure. Name the place. I'll be there." It was casual. Just like him. Like this was coffee between old friends. Cindy's stomach twisted, not from nausea this time, though that still came in waves. This was nerves. Plain, sharp nerves. Then she saw him. Theodore rounded the corner, camera bag slung over one shoulder, sunglasses perched on his head, wearing that same unhurried gait like the whole world was a photograph waiting to happen. He spotted her and smiled. She didn't smile back. "Hey," he said as he approached. "You look good. Different, maybe." Cindy turned and pushed open the cafe door without replying. He followed her in. They found a small table by the window, sunlight stretching across the wood like it was trying to lighten the mood. Theodore set down his bag and sat, eyes scanning her face. "So, what's this about?" Cindy didn't look at him right away. She reached into her coat pocket, pulling out the folded paper she hadn't let go of since yesterday, the confirmation from her doctor's visit. She placed it on the table. He stared at it, then up at her. "You're pregnant." She nodded. "And it's yours, Theodore." He leaned back in his chair slowly, jaw tight, eyes unreadable. "Wow. Yeah. That's been the general reaction," she said, folding her hands in front of her. There was a long pause. The hum of the espresso machine, the clink of mugs, the low chatter around them. It all felt distant, muffled by the moment pressing down between them. "Are you sure?" he asked, not accusing but stunned. "I wouldn't be sitting here if I wasn't." He nodded, looking down. "Okay. That's okay." Cindy raised an eyebrow. "That's all you've got?" He looked up at her, a flicker of emotion, fear? Confusion? Behind his eyes. "I don't know what to say, Cindy. This isn't exactly the kind of news you get over scones." She exhaled slowly, tamping down her instinct to snap. "I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm not even asking you to decide anything right now. I just thought you deserved to know." Theodore was quiet for a while. Then, softly, "Are you keeping it?" "Yes," she said, firm. "I am." He nodded again. Okay, that helps. Helps with what? Figuring out what the hell to do next. They sat in silence again. But it wasn't as brittle this time. It had softened at the edges, still full of questions, but with less weight, more air. Cindy stood. Take your time, Theo. I mean it. I just needed to say it out loud. He looked up at her, squinting against the sun. Thanks for telling me, he said. Really? She gave a tight nod, turned, and walked out into the fading afternoon light. Behind her, Theodore sat still, staring at the paper she'd left behind like it held both a question and an answer he wasn't ready for. The city moved on as if nothing had changed. People filled sidewalks with their headphones in, couples laughed over patio brunches, and the trains still screeched their way underground. But for Cindy, the world had taken on a strange new shape, like everything was slightly off-axis. She walked to work every day, but now she noticed every stroller that passed. Every toddler's wail in the grocery store made her pause. She found herself lingering in the baby aisle at Target, staring blankly at shelves of pastel bottles and tiny socks. Her co-workers didn't know yet. She wasn't ready to say the words out loud at the Monday morning meeting. So she kept her head down, did her job, and told herself she had time. But every night when she lay in bed, 1,000 what-ifs circled in her mind. Could she do this alone? Would Theodore change his mind? Should she want him to? Across the city, in his loft that always smelled like film chemicals and burnt toast, Theodore sat at his cluttered desk, staring at a half-finished edit on his laptop. A photo of a couple dancing under fairy lights, soft, romantic, out of focus at the edges. He was supposed to have the gallery finished by now, but every time he tried to focus, his mind veered. Pregnant. He'd said the word in his head at least 50 times. It still didn't feel real. The idea of being a father felt absurd. He could barely keep a plan alive. Commitment had always made him itchy. Leases, labels, expectations. That was part of why people liked him. He was easygoing, unmoored, full of we'll see. But now there was something anchoring him. Someone. A baby. His baby. He didn't know what Cindy expected from him. She'd been calm at the cafe, composed. But underneath that, he could see something fierce, something that scared him more than her news. She wasn't afraid. Or if she was, she'd decided to do it anyway. Theodore respected that, maybe even admired it. But it also made him feel small, unfinished. So he avoided calling her. He spent his days wandering the city with his camera, trying to capture moments that felt pure, real. A child chasing pigeons in the park, a mother tying her daughter's shoe, an old man reading alone by the river. And at night, he scrolled through old texts with Cindy, rereading their short exchanges over the past year. Nothing romantic. A sarcastic comment here, a shared meme there. The kind of background chatter that never felt important until suddenly, it was. Back in her apartment, Cindy was sitting on the floor, surrounded by folders and pamphlets from her first OB appointment. Her sister, Rachel, sat beside her, cross-legged and cradling a cup of herbal tea. So, have you told Mom yet? Rachel asked. Cindy gave her a look. Are you trying to kill me? Rachel laughed. Just wondering how many bombs you're planning to drop this month. Cindy smiled weakly. One at a time. And Theodore? Cindy hesitated. I told him. He took it better than I expected. But he hasn't really followed up. Are you okay with that? I don't know, she admitted. Part of me is fine. I've always handled things on my own. But another part, I guess I wanted more. Rachel nodded, quiet for a moment. Whatever happens, you're not alone in this. And you're going to be an incredible mom. Cindy didn't cry, but her throat tightened, and she let her head rest against her sister's shoulder. In another corner of the city, Theodore stood in front of a camera shop window, staring at a display of vintage lenses he used to covet. For the first time in a long while, he felt like those lenses, sharp, beautiful, but out of focus. Misaligned. And yet, something inside him stirred, not panic, not dread. Possibility. The text came on a Tuesday morning, barely a whisper in Cindy's buzzing schedule. Theodore, would it be okay if I came with you to your next appointment? Cindy stared at it for a moment, unsure what emotion rose first, relief or apprehension. She reread it 3 times before replying. Cindy, it's Thursday at 3. Midtown Women's Health. If you're sure. Theodore, I'm sure. He was already in the waiting room when she arrived. Cindy spotted him instantly, sitting upright in the corner, hands clasped, trying and failing to look relaxed. He stood when he saw her, giving a small, sheepish smile. "You came," she said, not hiding her surprise. "Told you I would." They sat together in the sterile quiet, surrounded by soft music and outdated parenting magazines. The air between them was thick, but not cold. More like a wall they hadn't decided how to climb over yet. The nurse called her name. Theodore stood too. The exam room smelled faintly of antiseptic and lavender. Cindy lay back on the table, her shirt pulled up, gel already cool on her skin. The technician moved the probe with calm efficiency. "There's baby," she said with practiced cheer. Cindy turned her head to the monitor. It was real. A tiny, flickering shape with a strong little heartbeat. Theodore took a step closer, eyes wide. "That's ours?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Cindy didn't answer. She didn't have to. He stared at the screen, breath caught in his chest. For once, the world didn't feel so unmoored. It felt terrifying, yes, but also meaningful in a way he hadn't expected. Outside the clinic, they walked slowly down the block, neither in a rush to leave. "I didn't think it would hit me like that," Theodore admitted. "Seeing it. I know. I don't have the first clue what I'm doing, Cindy," he said suddenly, stopping on the sidewalk. She turned to face him. "You think I do?" He smiled, really smiled this time. "Right. Fair." They paused in front of a bakery, its window filled with frosted cupcakes and tiny cakes shaped like animals. "You want to sit?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. They went inside and ordered 2 decaf drinks and a cinnamon bun to share. The table was small, the seats a little too close, but neither moved back. He broke the silence first. "I've been thinking a lot." She arched an eyebrow. "Dangerous?" He laughed. "Probably. But seriously, I don't want to vanish. I know I've been floaty. Detached." "You've been terrified," Cindy said gently. "So have I." Theodore met her gaze. "I want to try. To be involved. I'm not promising I'll be perfect, or even good at this, but I'm not going to disappear." Cindy stirred her drink. "I can't promise it'll be easy. I'm not asking for easy. I'm asking for a seat at the table." For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then Cindy reached forward and tore a piece of the cinnamon bun, placing it on his napkin. A peace offering, maybe. Or a test. He smiled and took a bite. "Cinnamon," he said, mouth full. "Underrated glue of all major negotiations." She smirked. "Good to know." And just like that, the ice between them thinned, not gone, but thawing. A flicker of something real taking root in the quiet warmth between sips and tentative smiles. Cindy never thought she'd walk through a baby store with Theodore. She had imagined doing it alone, checklist in hand, brisk and efficient. She'd pictured polite employees, neutral tones, and herself in control. Instead, she found herself in aisle 7 of a brightly lit boutique while Theodore poked at a giraffe-shaped rattle that squeaked obnoxiously every time he moved it. "Squeak level. Unacceptable," he muttered, shaking his head solemnly. Cindy tried not to smile. "Are you planning to rate every baby item?" "Only the noisy ones. It's a public service." He tossed the giraffe back onto the shelf and picked up a pair of impossibly small socks. "These are ridiculous," he said. "I didn't even know humans came this small." "They start smaller," she replied, distracted by a bassinet with a price tag that made her flinch. Their cart already held a few basics, bottles, swaddles, a diaper bag that didn't scream cartoon disaster. It was surreal, this slow accumulation of items that pointed toward a reality still several months away. Every item made it more real. She paused in front of a mobile with soft moons and stars. "I used to have one like this," she said quietly. "Glow-in-the-dark moons. I used to stay up just to watch it spin." Theodore glanced at her, sensing the vulnerability under her tone. "Do you remember it clearly?" "Yeah," she said. "We didn't have much, but I remember my room being peaceful. Like someone had cared enough to make it that way." He didn't respond at first, then said, "I don't remember my room at all." Cindy looked at him. "I mean, it changed so often. After the divorce, I bounced between my mom's apartment, my dad's new house, then my grandma's. Always a different mattress. Always temporary." She didn't say anything, but she didn't look away. The silence between them was heavy, not with awkwardness, but honesty. I want our kid to have something solid, Theodore added. Even if I have no idea what I'm doing. You're here, she said. That's a start. He nodded, grateful for her words, though a little unsure if he believed them yet. The next few weeks passed in uneven but meaningful strides. They started texting more often, appointment reminders turning into small conversations, then questions about names, pediatricians, even music preferences for lullabies. Cindy sent him a video of the baby kicking for the first time. Theodore responded with a stunned string of exclamation marks and a gif of a tiny martial artist. Sometimes they went baby shopping together, sometimes alone. He brought her food when she was too tired to cook. She helped him set up a basic budgeting app, a first for him. Their lives remained separate, but the spaces between them were filling in. One Saturday afternoon, Theodore invited her to his loft. It wasn't what she expected. She'd imagined clutter and half-finished canvases. And yes, there were camera lenses and cables scattered around. But it was also cozy. Light spilled through tall windows. One corner held a small table with 2 mugs and a plant that looked only slightly neglected. He gestured awkwardly. I cleared out the spare room. Cindy looked at him. For what? He shrugged. A nursery, maybe. If you ever needed a backup plan. Or if the baby stays here sometimes. Her throat tightened. That's thoughtful. It's still just a room, he said. But it's a start. She nodded, stepping into the empty space, imagining it full, crib bookshelves, maybe that stupid giraffe rattle. She turned to him. You're doing more than I expected. Theodore looked down. I'm trying. Because I think maybe this isn't just about the baby. Cindy met his gaze, surprised, but not dismissive. Something was shifting, quietly, between them. Not romance, not yet. But something warmer than civility. Something with roots. She didn't speak, just nodded once, and they stood there in the quiet, not needing to fill it with more. Cindy was 7 months pregnant when the bottom fell out. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday, the kind of day that shouldn't matter, but does. They were at her apartment, assembling a crib she'd finally chosen after weeks of research. The pieces were scattered across the living room floor, wooden slats, hex keys, screws in mismatched piles. Theodore sat cross-legged in the middle of it all, flipping the instruction manual upside down like it might make more sense that way. This piece doesn't fit, he muttered, nudging a beam with his foot. It does, Cindy said, kneeling across from him. You're holding it backwards. He squinted. Nope. I'm telling you, this thing is defective. It's not defective, Theodore. You just didn't read the diagram. Okay, well, maybe the diagram is crap. She stood up slowly, brushing her hands on her leggings. You know what? I'll just do it myself. Cindy, I don't have time to argue about furniture, and honestly, I don't want to do this if you're going to act like a child every time something's hard. Theodore blinked, stung. A child? She crossed her arms. You think this is hard? Wait until you're trying to change a diaper at 3 a.m. Wait until the baby's crying and nothing fixes it. You can't walk out when it gets frustrating, Theo. He stood up too, voice rising. I'm here, aren't I? I didn't run. I'm showing up. I cleared out my life for this. You cleared a room, Theodore. You still live in chaos. You still act like everything's temporary. He looked at her, really looked, and saw that her anger wasn't surface level. It was worn and heavy, the kind that came from holding too much on her own. I'm doing the best I can, he said quietly. But maybe I'm not enough for what you want. Cindy's voice cracked. I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to decide if you're in this or not. Silence. And in that silence, the worst kind of answer. He didn't say yes. He didn't say anything. So she turned away, pressing a hand to her stomach as if to shield it from the weight of the moment. You should go. Theodore stood frozen, hands slack at his sides. He didn't know how to fix it. Maybe he wasn't supposed to. He grabbed his jacket. I'll let you know when I figure it out. Then he left, the door clicking behind him like a final word. That night, Cindy lay in bed, one hand on her belly, the other over her eyes. She didn't cry. Not fully, but something inside her cracked. She'd been ready for motherhood, even alone. But she hadn't expected it to hurt like this, to lose the beginnings of something just as she started to believe in it. Across the city, Theodore sat on a park bench long after dark, staring at his phone, thumbs hovering over her name in his contacts. He wanted to text her, to say something, anything, but nothing he typed felt worthy. Instead, he sat with the ache in his chest, wondering if this was the moment he became just like his father, present long enough to be remembered, absent long enough to be resented. For the first time, he wasn't just scared of being a bad dad. He was scared he might already be one. The baby shower was a blur of soft colors and cautious joy. Cindy's sister had planned it all. The cake shaped like a storybook, the string of pastel balloons taped above the windows, the table piled with diapers and books and gifts she hadn't expected. She smiled when she was supposed to, made polite jokes, opened onesies with practiced gratitude. But beneath the surface, she was a storm. Theodore hadn't called. Not since that night. It had been almost 3 weeks. She told herself she was fine, that she'd made peace with the idea of doing it alone. She had friends, support, a plan. But deep down, every unopened door, every lull between conversations, felt like an echo of his absence. So when the knock came, late into the shower, just as the cake was being cut, she didn't move at first. Rachel opened the door. And there he was, Theodore, standing awkwardly in a button-up that didn't quite match his boots, hair tamed but still curling at the edges, holding a large paper bag that looked like it had been folded and refolded a dozen times. He looked nervous, exhausted, intentional. Cindy blinked. Rachel stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like he wasn't sure the floor would hold. Their eyes met across the room. He spoke quietly. "Hi." Cindy's hand tightened around the edge of the table. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you. And say a few things that I should have said weeks ago." The room hushed. A few guests politely slipped into the kitchen, sensing something private was unfolding. Theodore took a breath. "I was scared. Not just of being a father, of failing at it, of becoming someone who hurts you by not being enough." Cindy didn't speak, just watched him. "I've started therapy," he said. "Been going every week. I've talked to my dad, really talked. I've cleaned up some messes in my life, and I'm going to keep doing it, whether or not you let me back in." He opened the crinkled bag and pulled out a small, hand-framed photo, a still from the ultrasound, carefully edited in black and white, mounted on soft paper. "I made this for the nursery. If I get to be part of it." Cindy stared at the picture. Her hand went to her stomach instinctively. "I don't want to be someone you have to manage," Theodore added. "I want to be someone you can count on. Not just because we're having a baby, because I choose you. I choose us. Even if it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Silence stretched between them again. Then slowly, Cindy walked over, took the frame, and set it on the table behind her. She looked up at him. "You don't get points for showing up late." "I know, but you showed up. I will keep doing that," he said. "For as long as it takes." A breath passed between them. Cindy's eyes softened. "Then come meet your kid," she said. Theodore exhaled like he hadn't breathed in days. And for the first time in weeks, something unspoken lifted from both their shoulders. Not a resolution, not a happy ending, but a beginning, chosen, flawed, and real.